Hello and welcome back to the 24th episode of Greek Speaks. Wow, that's a big number. I know I say that every week, but wow. This week we are talking about Atalanta, who is this amazing female warrior hero who I love. And I'm just glad to talk about the women for once, considering classics is such a male-dominated thing, both in people who study it and who is the heroes that we talk about. I say as Perseus is my favorite hero. So Atalanta is really interesting because she emulates a lot of the breaking down of gender stereotypes in the ancient world. Firstly, her story starts off as her dad, who's a king, wants her to be a boy in the womb, so he wants a son, and she pops out and she's a girl. Something that was very common in the ancient world. And even to this day, there's some record of this in with the one-child policy in China. So he abandoned her in the wilderness; she would die. This happens with Oedipus. This happens with a lot of heroes. So it's a very, I don't want to say common thing in the ancient world, but it's not the most thing talked about, I guess. So she is abandoned in the wilderness, and she is found by the she-bear, and who raises her to young adulthood. And because she is raised by a she-bear, Atalanta is very, very good at hunting, very skilled with bows. In some instances, she is found by hunters who raise her, and she is very skilled at hunting, bows, arrows, runs very, very quickly. It's just a very Artemis-like person. And eventually, she goes on this hunt named the Cladamonian, I think, boar hunt, which there's this big boar terrorizing Clydon, which is a section of Greece. Prince Maliger, who's over this hunt, is absolutely smitten with her. So Maliger, a bunch of other heroes, Atalanta, and Maliger's uncles go and hunt down this boar. And in the fight, a couple people are killed, a couple people are injured, but Atalanta ends up getting the first hit on him. And Maliger is able to take down the boar after Atalanta wins it. And because Atalanta has the first wound of the hunt, by tradition she should get the skin and the rites of passage kind of stuff, which Maliger's uncles are not happy about, and so Maliger kills them. As you do. This makes Maliger's mother very, very upset. One thing about Maliger is, though, that when he was a baby, I think the Fates came to his mom and said, hey, you see that stick burning in the fire? When that stick runs out, your son's gonna die. So, obviously, mom takes it out of the fire, makes it stop burning, and tucks it away in a trunk, and never lets anyone know about it. So when she hears Maliger has killed her brothers, she takes it out and throws it in the fire, as you do. And so Maliger dies. Okay. This is actually really interesting because Rick Riordan, in his second series, Hero of Olympus, there is a character in that book series that has that same weak point, the fire stick. So Atalanta goes on with her life. She joins the Argonauts in some cases. She just joins a lot of, cameos and different myths. The other myth that's about her is when she gets married. And so her dad figures out the hero of the Cladonian boar hunt is his daughter, and says, okay, yeah, I want her back, and so starts treating her like a princess, da-da-da-da-da, and eventually he's like, okay, you need to get married. And Atalanta's like, okay, I'll marry someone, but they have to beat me in a foot race. And if they don't beat me in a foot race, they're gonna die. I will kill them. Some people just really want to stay single, and I applaud her for that. This is why I'm single. Anyway, not important. So, hundreds and hundreds of suitors come, race against Atalanta, and she kills them. And eventually this guy strolls into town, this guy named Hippomenes, and, of course, met with Atalanta, da-da-da-da-da, and he knows if he doesn't win in the foot race, he's gonna die. And so he goes to Aphrodite, and Aphrodite gives them golden apples and says, look, use these against your race. And Hippomenes is like, cool. So, day of the race comes. Atalanta and Hippomedes line up at the starting point, and they start going. And Atalanta pretty quickly goes ahead of him. Hippomedes takes one of the golden apples and throws it in her way, and she runs after it, grabs it, comes back. Does the same thing again, comes after it, goes back. And then starting to get to the finish line, and Hippomedes takes the last apple and chucks it as far as he can, and she, of course, veers off course, and he runs over the finish line, and they get married. Which, I don't know if that, says, oh, even, I don't know if it's oh, you can tame any woman, we just care about sparklies, and, yeah, so eventually Atalanta does get married, and eventually she and Hippomedes make some god mad. I think they might have had sex in one of the temples to someone, and I think Zeus eventually turns them into a lion, turns Atalanta into a lioness and Hippomedes into a lion. That's the end of that story. I really like Atalanta just because she is very, outspoken and, I don't care what the society tells me to do, I'm going to do what I want, which is very respectable. She might have also been formed after the idea of, the Homeric hero and the Mycenaean hero, which was a shift in ancient Greece after, when Greek storytelling was shifting more from epic into tragedy. So you get heroines because tragedy is more about the home and stuff like that. So you don't get people going to, you don't get the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid kind of vibes. You get at home kind of thing. And typically, women are seen in the house, and so whenever a Greek woman comes out of the house, it is a huge, I don't want to say transgression, but it is a huge deal for that society. Usually weapons for Greek heroines are their thing, are their minds, and, getting around and manipulating the situation more than just the male heroes. Perseus, you got the sword and the shield, and with Hercules, you got the brute strength, but with Atalanta, it's a lot of strategy, and it's a lot of the mind. And you see a lot of that with Medea and Iphigenia and a lot like that. So that is all I have for Atalanta. Oh, I actually have another thing. So my mom had this radio show, I guess. It was a CD when I was little, but I think it was something else when she was little. So she has this piece of media from when she was really little that she would play for me and my siblings, and it was called Free to Be You and Me, and the only two things that I remember from that, and it was like stories on tape kind of thing, and then had songs and stuff like that, and the only two I remember is this really, really, really creepy song about, women's role in society and, breaking stereotypes and stuff like that. It has a good message at the end of the day, but it's such a creepy and weird song that it's terrifying to me to this day. It's on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's called Free to Be You and Me. But the other one is the story of Atalanta and Hippomedes, which is probably why I say Atalanta and not Atlanta like that. Which is weird because I say Atlanta, Georgia. I don't say Atalanta, Georgia. Anyway. So yeah. But yeah, that is all I have for Atalanta this week. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. I think I've hit all the big major heroes that don't have a play tied to them, and technically Hercules does. I will figure that out, and as always, if you have any myths you want me to look at in particular, leave them down in the comments below, and I will see you next week.